Welcome to a place where silence speaks louder than screams, and truth always finds its moment. Here, proud family milestones turn into unforgettable turning points, and public betrayal collides with private power. These stories pull back the curtain on perfect-looking marriages, exposing the lies, manipulation, and emotional neglect hidden underneath. Every episode is told through raw emotion and quiet strength, where humiliation is never the end of the story, it's the beginning of control. You'll hear how carefully timed truth can shatter years of deception, how calm restraints can undo a lifetime of manipulation, and how justice doesn't need chaos to be devastating. If you believe the most powerful revenge is living with clarity, reclaiming dignity, and letting consequences speak for themselves, then you're in the right place. Stay with us, because every story shared here proves that sometimes the quietest response delivers the loudest impact. The announcement came during applause, right after the diploma was placed in shaking hands. Proud families stood, cameras raised, smiles stretched wide. Then a voice cut through the celebration, calm and rehearsed, declaring an exit from the marriage as if announcing a change in dinner plans. No warning, no private conversation, just a public betrayal wrapped in confidence, delivered at a moment meant to honor years of sacrifice. Faces froze, whispers spread, eyes turned, waiting for a reaction that never came. Silence followed, not from shock alone, but from certainty, because while that speech was sudden, it was far too late. Every late meeting that smelled like perfume instead of coffee had been noticed. Every password change, every unexplained transfer, every business trip that never matched the receipts had been quietly traced. Nights spent pretending to sleep had been used to listen, to remember, to prepare. Love had once blinded, but disrespect sharpened focus. Standing there, soaked in stage lights and judgment, that man believed control still rested in his hands, believed humiliation would break something essential. What went unseen were the copies stored safely away, the timeline written cleanly, the attorney already briefed, the accounts already flagged. The house, the investments, the polished reputation, none of it as secure as assumed. When congratulations faded and people gathered closer, the performance continued. Smiles returned, laughter forced, introductions made with the woman who looked far too comfortable. That was the moment chosen. A quiet question asked about shared finances, another about the condo downtown, a third about why a company credit card paid for weekends that were never billed to clients. Color drained fast, words tangled, voices rose. The truth does that. It refuses to stay hidden once invited into the room. Phones appeared, screens turned, messages displayed, dates, promises, lies stacked neatly in chronological order. No shouting was needed. The evidence spoke clearly, calmly, and far louder than rage ever could. Guests backed away as the mask finally cracked, replaced by panic and anger that had nowhere to land. That graduation day stayed unforgettable, not because of what was taken, but because of what was reclaimed. The lies didn't arrive all at once. They were fed slowly, disguised as long work hours, sudden mood swings, and a distance blamed on stress. For years, manipulation passed as concern. Neglect wore the mask of responsibility, and betrayal hid behind a carefully maintained image of a devoted husband. Friends admired the charm. Family trusted the smile. No one saw what happened behind closed doors. Every promise came with conditions. Every disagreement ended with blame subtly redirected. Apologies were rare, affection rationed, and silence used as punishment. When questions surfaced, they were met with laughter or anger, both meant to shut them down. Over time, doubt became routine, and emotional absence felt normal, even expected. But patterns leave trails. Late-night calls taken outside, receipts deleted but not erased, a phone guarded like a vault, names changed to initials, trips extended without reason. each detail alone meant nothing. Together, they formed a truth too heavy to ignore. What appeared to be loyalty was convenience. What looked like love was control. The moment everything collided was not dramatic at first. It was ordinary, a casual conversation, a single question asked calmly, backed by quiet certainty. The response came too fast, too defensive. Lies always panic when cornered. That crack was enough. Screens lit up with messages never meant to be found. Photos taken in places claimed never visited. Voice notes filled with affection that had long vanished at home. Financial records told their own story. Money spent building a second life while the first was slowly starved of care. Confrontation wasn't loud. There was no need. The truth stood solid, undeniable, and unmoving. The mask slipped, revealing frustration, then rage, then fear. The perfect image shattered in real time. Excuses piled up, contradicting one another. Blame shifted again, but this time it had nowhere to land. Years of emotional neglect surfaced in that moment. Birthdays forgotten, milestones dismissed, needs ignored. All while someone else received the attention that had been withheld. The realization hurt, but clarity followed close behind. Manipulation only works until awareness arrives. Nothing could be taken back. No apology could rebuild what had been deliberately dismantled. That carefully curated life collapsed under the weight of its own dishonesty. And that was the exact moment the truth finally chose the side it always belonged to. The moment humiliation was expected, calm took its place instead. Accusations filled the air, loud and sharp, meant to provoke tears or anger. Voices rose around the room, opinions formed quickly, and assumptions spread faster than truth ever does. Every eye waited for a breakdown. None came. Inside, everything was already settled. Years of emotional whiplash had taught restraint. The sudden coldness, the unexplained generosity followed by silence, the way affection appeared only when control was slipping, all of it had been studied quietly. What looked like patience was preparation. What sounded like acceptance was strategy. As accusations flew, the performance unfolded exactly as rehearsed in private. Denials spilled out of him in messy waves, layered with blame and half-truths. He spoke quickly, desperately, trying to stay ahead of what he assumed was ignorance. That assumption was his final mistake. There was power in not interrupting, in allowing the story to unravel on its own. Each exaggerated claim contradicted the last. Each angry defense exposed more than it protected. The louder he became, the clearer the truth sounded without a single word spoken. When silence finally returned, it was intentional. Calm questions followed, measured, precise, impossible to dismiss. Dates, locations, transactions, names. Each one landed with purpose. There was no emotion attached, just facts lined up neatly, waiting for recognition. The room shifted. Sympathy drained away. People started listening differently. Screens were unlocked, messages displayed. Bank statements explained what words never could. Trips taken while claiming overtime. Gifts purchased during months of emotional absence. Love letters written to someone else while indifference ruled at home. Anger erupted then, not from betrayal, but from exposure. He paced, shouted, accused everyone else of betrayal, of conspiracy, of misunderstanding. Control slipped with every outburst. The calm remained unmoved. That contrast did the real damage. Because nothing unsettles manipulation like composure, nothing weakens lies faster than restraint paired with evidence. Humiliation had been expected on one side of the room, but it landed exactly where it belongs. When the storm finally burned itself out, only clarity remained. No shouting could undo what had been revealed. No apology could soften the truth now sitting openly between everyone. And in that stillness, control quietly changed hands. Revenge doesn't always arrive loud. Sometimes it waits, patient and exact, letting time do the sharpening. Anger was felt, yes, but never shown. While he mistook quiet for weakness, everything necessary was already in motion. Every lie had a timestamp. Every betrayal left a trace. Nothing needed to be rushed. There had been plenty of opportunities to scream. Late nights explained away with work. Sudden trips justified by emergencies that never added up. A phone turned face down, guarded like a secret vault. Affection rationed, attention redirected elsewhere. The pattern was obvious once emotion stepped aside. Truth has a way of organizing itself when allowed space. Instead of confrontation, observation took over. Messages synced across devices without his knowledge. Financial records revealed spending habits that didn't belong to a faithful marriage. Hotel charges matched dates he claimed to be out of town alone. Gifts purchased during months when birthdays and anniversaries were forgotten at home. It wasn't one betrayal. It was a lifestyle built on deception. Timing mattered more than volume. The moment chosen wasn't random or emotional. It was strategic. Surrounded by people he needed approval from. Standing inside the image he worked hardest to protect. Calm questions were asked, each one anchored in fact. No accusations, no raised voice. Just space for the truth to surface on its own. He laughed at first, then deflected, then denied. Lies collapsed quickly when matched with evidence. Screens were turned, statements read aloud, dates aligned too perfectly to argue against. The realization hit hard. Not that he'd been caught, but that control had slipped beyond reach. Panic followed. Apologies came too fast to be sincere. Blame shifted as it always had, but this time no one accepted it. The performance failed because the audience finally saw behind the curtain. Silence did more damage than shouting ever could. Justice didn't require cruelty. Consequences arrived naturally once the truth stood fully exposed. Reputations cracked, trust evaporated. The carefully maintained double life dissolved under the weight of its own dishonesty. Nothing was taken that hadn't already been forfeited by choice. Walking away wasn't dramatic. It was clean, calm, final. And that quiet ending hurt him far more than any scream ever could. If this story kept you listening, imagine what the next truth might reveal. These moments of betrayal, strength, and justice unfold every week, and each one reminds us that control doesn't come from shouting, it comes from knowing when to speak. Don't forget to like this video if the story resonated with you, subscribe for more powerful real-life stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment when the truth finally wins. Until next time, remember, silence, when backed by truth, is unstoppable.